Hello, you're listening to English Digest. I'm Seb.
And I'm Elsie.
And we are back with another writing assignment. Today we're looking at a letter-based writing. And this one is quite an interesting one. It's all about giving feedback, giving opinions about something. So, Elsie, are you someone who is good at receiving feedback? Actually, let's just pause here. What is feedback?
Feedback 是反馈。
反馈. Okay.
Right. So, for example, after you go to a restaurant, you can give them some feedback on their food, on their service.
So some thoughts, some opinions about the quality of the food, about the quality of the service.
About the restaurant.
Things they did well, things they did badly, things they can improve.
Right. So there's a strategy called sandwich strategy.
I've heard of that
one. It always
starts
with something good and the bad part is in the middle and always ends with the good part again. Right.
Yes. So it leaves someone feeling that thinking about the good things that they did, but also being aware of things to improve on. That's a good strategy. I think it's also good to think about giving constructive criticism.
Right.
So constructive comes from the word to build, so construct. And constructive criticism are criticisms you give that can help someone improve. So you don't say your dress is ugly, your singing is terrible. That's not constructive criticism. It doesn't encourage them to do better. You could say something like, I think you need to practice more of this singing style, or you need to spend more time doing that, or you need to be better at time management. That's constructive because it's giving advice.
Right.
So giving good constructive criticism is in itself a skill. And that is, I think, a skill that we're going to be developing today. But before we get to developing that, when are some times that feedback is really useful?
Like I said, after we go to a restaurant, we can give them feedback so that they can improve. And like us, I think in the English learning environment, it's always important for us to give our students some corrective feedback. And we are also, we need to be open to our students' feedback for us too.
That's very, very true. Of course, if you're just speaking English on your own in a room, you don't know if you're speaking it correctly. You don't know which areas of your English you need to work on. And so feedback is very important there. Organizations and companies obviously need feedback. You mentioned restaurants just now, but anything that you're doing which is oriented or targeting the customer obviously needs feedback because you need to understand what your customers want.
Yes.
And so for getting feedback for an organization, there are lots of different strategies and methods that we might want to use. We could talk about taking surveys or questionnaires, for example. A survey is kind of like almost like a written test, but it's asking you your opinions on different things. So, on a scale of 1 to 5, how happy are you with the food at this restaurant? On a scale of 1 to 5, how clean is this restaurant? And someone can tell you what they think in a way that you can compare them. Another way that we could get feedback is through interviews. And that is where you have a structured conversation with somebody where you ask them questions and they tell you the answer. And lastly, I think this is one that everybody thinks of when they think of feedback, suggestion boxes. I haven't seen a suggestion box in a very long time, but do you know what a suggestion box is,
Like
Elsie?
you can write down your advice and suggestions to the people that are asking for feedback?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So, and you leave them in a covered box and you don't put your name on it. So it encourages people to say their opinion because nobody is going to know who gave their opinion. Although I don't think we use suggestion boxes as much in the age of the internet.
Right.
We're talking about feedback. So let's look at our topic and instructions. The school association at your school wants to suggest some measures to improve the campus and is asking everyone what they would recommend. Please write a letter to the association with some recommendations. You should point out some problems you have noticed and offer some solutions. Your passage should be separated into paragraphs and be no shorter than 120 words. Please use the word 李轩 as your signature. You should not use your own English or Chinese name.
好，我们提示中文的部分呢，是你就读的学校的学生会准备向校方提出改善校园空间的计划，所以呢，英文里面的 The Student Association 就是学校的学生会哦。因此呢，我们需要广纳全校学生的意见，请你写一封信给学生会，表达你的想法。信中必须要包含你发现的问题，这个问题如何困扰你，以及你认为可行的改善方式。文章需要分段，文长至少120个单字。注意信末必须要署名李轩，好，不得使用自己真实的中文姓名或是英文姓名哦。这是在 letter writing 里面我们要特别注意的。
Yes, exactly. So before we get started, what is a student association? That's kind of key to our assignment. Basically, it's an organization at a school that represents students and shares their opinions and concerns with the school. So things they might do include planning activities or field trips, when a class goes somewhere or a group of students go somewhere for the day. Giving feedback about the state of the campus, is it clean? Is it too busy?
Is it big enough?
Is it big enough? Does it have the right facilities? And lastly, mediating student concerns. Now, when we mediate something or mediate a problem, we kind of help two sides talk about the problem and hash it out, work out how they can find a solution. So we could say that the student association is really the go-between between students and teachers. They are the connection between the two. So the student association wants to make suggestions about how to improve the school campus. What are some realistic improvements that could be made to a school campus?
Like you mentioned, maybe a bigger campus, a cleaner campus, or a better cafeteria with more food choices for students. Or a nicer dormitory.
Yes. Especially if it is a boarding school or a college, then yes, it might have dormitories. It might have places where people sleep. People might have opinions about the size of the rooms, the internet, the toilets, the bathrooms, all of that. So this association wants to make some suggestions. And in the assignment, you are writing a letter to the association about the things you think they should suggest. So you're not a member of the association. You're just a student with some things to say, some things you don't like, some things you think could be better. So you're not writing a letter to the school teachers or principal. So this letter should be about some things that you personally have noted, not that everybody has noticed in the school. Again, you are not the student association.
所以你在透过这个学生会把你的意见陈述给学校听。好，所以学生会的这个角色刚刚 Seb 有提到，就是从中去协调学生跟这个学校之间的关系。
Right. Okay, let's move on to the develop approach section.
好，在 develop and approach 的地方呢，我们看到第一个简函写作应该要注意的格式，重点包括了称谓、日期、结尾语和署名。那在信件内容当中的相对位置呢，在图片上面有，同学们可以看一下哦。
Right, so we need to remember the right structure for writing a letter. The first is the name of the addressee. That's the person you're writing to. So we can say something like dear and then their name. Next is the date. Now, in a traditional letter, we write the date at the top right-hand side of the page, so it's the first thing the reader sees. The date, remember, is the date that you wrote the letter. At the end of the letter, we need a concluding remark and a signature. We'll come to those in a minute. Let's talk a bit more about the start of our letter.
好，再来呢，我们要看到的是这个月的简函写作是写信给学生会表达自己的想法和意见。那这类写给某组织或是其他行政单位的信件格式必须要正式。那常见的写法如下。A. 称谓可以用 Dear 加上收件单位或负责受理者的姓名。在不确定收信者姓名的时候，可以用 To whom it may concern 作为礼貌的称谓。
Right, good suggestions. You don't need to be too creative with this part of the letter. There are really only a couple of opening remarks that we use in formal letters. What I will say, though, is if you know the name of the addressee, then you should write dear and then their name. To whom it may concern is formal, but it's less personal and it sounds like you know less about the person you're writing to. So we often say if you're applying for a job in English, you should always try and find the name of the person who's hiring for the job, or at least write down the department name if you can't find that. To say to whom it may concern sounds like you don't understand who you're writing to.
Right, so in this essay, do you suggest our students use to whom it may concern or dear plus a name?
I think if the assignment, for this one, we haven't actually given a name for someone at the Student Association.
Right.
So you can use both. If in your exams there is a name of a person that you're writing a formal letter to, so I don't know, Mr. Smith who works at the bank, then say, Dear Mr. Smith. Don't say to whom it may concern.
OK， 再来呢，我们要注意的是日期写在称谓上方空一行的右上角或是至左，对齐信件。再来，正式信件的结尾语呢，我们可以用 best regards or kind regards， 或者是 sincerely or respectfully yours， 或者是 yours sincerely， 或者是 truly yours。Yours truly 这些都行。那写在信件结尾下方空一行的右下角或至左对齐信件。那在不确定收信者为何者的时候，可以用 yours faithfully 作为。
Now, I don't think this is a strict rule, but different concluding remarks are more appropriate than others depending on which opening remark you used. So if you used someone's name at the start, then you can use something like yours sincerely at the end. But if you used dear sir or madam, that's actually another option that we have. If you know the gender of the person you're writing to but not their name, you could also say dear sir or madam. If you use one of those, you can use yours faithfully. That's something that a piece of advice I found online, but I've not personally always stuck to. But you can remember that. And remember, your concluding remark should always be followed by a comma and not a period.
好，所以呢 Seb 刚刚提醒我们的是前后必须做搭配，你的开头是怎么样去执行的，结尾也是一样，所以开头如果是不确定收信者为谁，你后面就可以用 yours faithfully。那再来呢，署名的时候可以姓氏跟名字都写，也可以只写名字，至于结尾语的下方对齐结尾语。那再来我们要注意到，这是一封正式的信件，目标为希望对方能够采纳自己的建议，因此书写的时候语气上应该要礼貌正式才对。
Right, it's very important that you get the tone right. Some things to consider. You need to use professional and formal language. You want this to be polite. You want the reader to feel respected. And so we also want to avoid using emotive words. Now, what are emotive words? They are words that make you feel emotions or describe emotions. So words like angrily, cruelly, and nervously, which are all adverbs that are emotive verbs. You can have adjectives and verbs too. They are all words that give us a sense of emotion. And if you're trying to write a very formal letter, then this doesn't really work. If you're writing to somebody that you're showing a lot of respect to, you don't want to use words like... don't want to say the school is cruelly taking away our lunches. That sounds too dramatic. And for the reader, it sounds like you could be making things up. You could be making things sound worse than they are. When you use neutral, formal language, you sound much more believable. And that's what's most important about this. Next, avoid informal language. Now, this seems simple, but it's something that people trip up on a lot. So avoid words like super, awesome, or the word crazy to mean a lot. So let's compare these two sentences which mean the same thing. I'm going to tell you about something that really sucks on campus.
Oops.
I'm writing to complain about a problem on our campus.
Okay, so the first one was really, really informal.
Yes.
Like gonna.
I'm gonna, yeah.
And sucks.
Yes, would never use a word like sucks in any kind of formal writing.
Right.
Really, only I would use that word like texting a friend or something like that. I would never use it in this setting. So be careful when you've written your first draft, take a quick look through and think, am I using the right language? Do I need to change anything?
没错，所以呢，我们要避免情绪性或是非正式的字眼。好，再来我们要注意到的是，简函写作通常是以第一人称来叙述，因为你在写信给对方，好，所以由你出发。所以呢，这边我们要用 first person. Okay, moving on to our brainstorming part.
Right.
So today we are going to use our mind map, 心智图.
Exactly, we are going to use a mind map, my favorite kind of brainstorming tool. So what is a mind map? A mind map is basically like I always think of a spider's web kind of thing where you have a bubble in the middle with your main topic, and then you write subtopics around the edge, things that are related to that bubble. And mind maps are fantastic if you don't know what to say about a topic, or you think there's lots of things to say about a topic and you're not sure where to begin. You can begin by writing down your ideas very quickly on a piece of paper and connecting these with lines and arrows. So sometimes actually, if I'm not even sure how to organize these or what main topic to focus on, I might even skip the central circle and start writing down just general ideas that I think of when I think of this, whatever it is I want to write about. In our example, however, we already do. In today's assignment, we know that we're writing a letter to the Student Association. So let's take a closer look now at the example mind map that we have here in our magazines.
OK, 所以我们在中间呢看到 A letter to the student association 就是我们今天的主题，我们的 topic 要写信给学生会。在你会看到3个箭头，分别是针对提示当中要我们去囊括的3个面向，然后呢向学校提出建议。所以第一个是你发现的问题是什么？What's the problem? 再来呢是这个问题如何困扰你，所以你在右边的圈圈里面你看到的是 How has it affected me? 最后呢你要提出的是可行的改善方式，3个提示当中要你做到的部分你都要写到哦。好，所以呢第3个圈圈你看到的是 What are the solutions?
Exactly. So this will give you a really good basis for understanding for getting your ideas on paper and beginning to plan things. On that note, I think it's about time we move on to our outline. Now, an outline, remember, is just a writing device that helps you plan out your ideas so you know how to organize your thoughts and also how to make sure that you don't spend too much time writing about one part of your writing and too little time on another.
Right, so having an outline is very important.
It is very important.
When you are taking a test.
Yes. So for outlines, we make bullet points with our main points and then sub-bullet points for supporting details, examples, any of that. So let's take a look at the first paragraph. We can see that it outlines the problem, gives detail, and explains a negative outcome if nothing is done. So let's take a look. I'm writing to complain about a problem on our campus. I noticed a huge amount of trash on the ground when I first came here. I thought the problem would be gone soon, but it hasn't gone away. The trash attracts pests, and it could soon become a health problem. Okay, so this is a really good outline for the first paragraph. It gives us our thesis statement, which is very clear in the letter. For letters, the thesis statement is normally just saying what you're writing the letter about. So this one is saying, I'm writing to complain about a problem. You'll notice they didn't say, I know that you're going to suggest problems that students have on campus, blah, blah, blah. You don't actually need to write that. We've got the context, but you don't need to put the context in your letter. You can get straight to the problem. I think a good thing here is that they explained a negative outcome if nothing is done about the problem that they pointed out. So it could become a health problem. It could cause serious health risks for people. If there's loads of pests and rats and bugs running around the school, people are going to get sick. So a very strong beginning to our outline.
而且非常的清楚 and it's very clear.
Yes.
然后这个结构是非常清晰的。所以呢，在第一段当中写出你发现的问题，这个问题怎么样困扰你？那请问在第二段要写什么呢？当然就是你认为可行的改善方式。所以我们看到主题句2，他说的是 I have 2 suggestions for solving the problem. 非常清楚、简单易懂。那第一个是什么样的solution 什么样的解决办法呢？ First, we need more trash cans. Second, we need to hire more cleaning staff.
Yes, the cleaning staff could be overworked. They might not have enough time to do everything properly and thoroughly. So good suggestions for improving things. And that's what's important with giving constructive criticism. You want to not only point out a problem, but offer some solutions or some advice for dealing with it. Now, let's take a quick break here, and then when we're back, we will go through our basic and advanced samples. All right, we're back. Let's take a look at the basic sample. Basic sample. Dear Student Association members, I'm writing to complain about a problem on our campus. When I first came here, I noticed a surprising amount of trash on the ground. At first, I thought it would soon get taken care of. However, the problem hasn't gone away. I still see a lot of litter on our campus, both around the trash cans and in other places. What's worse, the trash attracts pests like cockroaches and rats. It doesn't just look bad, it's a health crisis waiting to happen. I have 2 suggestions for solving the problem. First, we need to put more trash cans in convenient places. Second, and more importantly, we need to hire additional cleaning staff. I think we could hire students as part-time workers. This would not only allow them to earn a little money, but also help them find pride in their school. Yours faithfully, Li Xuan. Okay, so a good example of how we can write this letter. Shall we jump straight in and look at some of the grammar and vocabulary?
Sure, 所以呢，这个刚刚我说到，它的架构非常的清楚，我特别喜欢它开头 I'm writing to complain about something，带出这个问题。然后呢At first, 他先带出他一开始的感觉 However, 在带出转变之后他是怎么样的想法还有就是 What's worse, 更糟的是什么然后他提出了2个解决问题的好办法 I have 2 suggestions for solving the problem 他用什么来带出呢用 not only but also 带出2件事情
Exactly. I think a good word for us to remember in this letter is the word surprising, actually.Surprising means unexpected, and it can be positive or negative. It just means your expectations were different. Another word I'd like us to look at is litter. Now, litter is another word for trash, and it's normally small things that have been left on the ground. Litter can be used as a noun, or it can also be used as a verb. You might see some signs in English-speaking countries that say, do not litter. That means do not throw trash on the ground. Do not throw things wherever you want, put them in a bin. All right. Any more words that you want to take a look at, Elsie?
还有2个字我想要提一下一个是 pest
Okay.
不是 pet 是 pest 有害的动物害虫好然后呢因为很多垃圾会招来害虫然后呢这就是为什么我们需要多余的更多的 cleaning staff additional 这个形容词额外的多出来的
And did you know pest can also be used to mean someone who's annoying?
Oh, right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stop being such a pest.
Stop being such a pest.
Exactly. Pest is not really that rude a word. I mean, obviously calling someone annoying is rude, but it's not like a swear word or anything like that. I hear people in the UK use it with children, for example. But yes, you can also use it, don't be a pest, go away. All right, let's move on now and look at the advanced sample. Advanced sample. To whom it may concern. I have decided to pen this letter to the Student Association to bring to light a problem facing not only me, but also many other students on this campus. I hope that with your help, steps can be taken to rectify the situation and make a better campus for all of us. The issue is this. There is a depressing lack of green space at our high school. While a significant portion of the students spend their break times in the classrooms or playing basketball on the school courts, many of us would like to simply relax outside when the weather is nice. However, there are insufficient outdoor seats, just a few in the Quadrangle. What's more, the Quadrangle itself is partially overgrown with plants and seldom cleaned, so it's just not an appealing place to sit. I recommend that the school redesign its open spaces. In doing so, it should put students' needs first. For instance, some pavilions with seats and tables would allow us to congregate during break times. We could also use such spaces for work, group discussions, and extracurricular activities. The Quadrangle should also be redesigned. I suggest we hold a student design contest so that the students can contribute to the appearance of the school. I've enclosed a list of the signatures of students who share my concerns and support these measures. If you'd like more details, I'd be happy to speak to the Student Association in person. Yours faithfully, Li Xuan.
Oh, wow. I like this one a lot.
Yes, it's a very grand letter, isn't it? It sounds almost very political.
Right, 在第一段的地方，他就用到了很多正式的用语，像是 pen this letter to somebody。写信给某人，他不是用 writing this letter， 他用的是 pen 当动词用。还有就是呢，他要 bring to light a problem， 让大家知道有这样子的问题存在。然后他还说了，这个 steps can be taken。措施可以被采取来干嘛呢？ Rectify. So does rectify mean improve?
It means correct and improve. Or more like correct, actually. You rectify a situation, you fix a problem.
还有就是呢，他用到意见动词的句型，像是 I recommend that 主词加上原形动词，还有一个就是 I suggest that 主词加上原形动词 hold。然后在这一句当中呢，那个 that 被省略掉了。
Okay, so I think that a couple of things we can look at here are the school-related vocabulary. There's a lot on here. We obviously know the word campus. That's an area in the school. But we also had green spaces. Now, a green space is a park, it's a forest, it's anywhere where there's not buildings and there is grass and trees and flowers and anything like that. So we often use green space as a hold-all, as a big word for to describe all these different kinds of outdoor spaces. Another one is quadrangle. Now, I've actually never used this word in full before.
Quadrangle.
We had a quadrangle at my high school, but we didn't call it that. We called it the quad. We abbreviated it. QUAD. I'm not sure if that is actually British English, but it's definitely, you can use it in the UK at least. And the quad is just, it's normally a gathering space in between buildings, kind of like a square or a plaza. Because a quad is a square. Quadrangle is another word for square, basically. Which is normally concrete or paved or something like that, where, people gather at break times or, parents drop off their kids at the beginning of the school day. And lastly, we have this word extracurricular. Now, extracurricular just means on top of classes, in addition to classes. So anything you do at school which you don't need to do to graduate, to get your grades, is all you need to know. Lastly, I think a good piece of advice to take away from this letter is, although this letter is great for exams, when you come to writing letters in real life, I think you need to bring up your main topic faster than this letter. It takes quite a long time to get to its topic sentence, which is there is a depressing lack of green space at our high school. That's the main thing we're talking about.
Yes.
And we've already written 50 words before we've gotten to it. So there's lots of good vocabulary, but just be careful when you're writing your introductions not to preface too much, not to write too much before you get to the point, because often your letter reader wants to know why you're writing the letter and they want to learn it as soon as possible. So that's all the time we have for today. We'll be back soon with the translation episode, so join us then. Until then, it's bye-bye from me.
Bye-bye from me too.
And see you soon. Bye.
Bye.